Welcome to Catacris TV. My name is Jason J. Houston. Our guest today is Horizon Theory lead singer Josh Harrington. Welcome to the show, Josh. How you doing?
Thanks, man. I'm good.
I gotta be honest with you. Until your publicist reached out to me, I never heard of a band. So I went online and I checked out the latest single video, of course, for Astronomer. I was pretty impressed with what I heard. So let's start off talking a little bit about the history of the band. How long have you guys been together?
Probably about a year, I guess. Chris, the guitar player, and I worked on writing some music for, well, roughly a year, and we kind of he used to be in a band already with our bass player Lewis for quite a few years, 6 or 7 years, something like that. So they were already kind of established, and I hadn't met Lewis yet, but I met Chris, and he kind of got a hold of Lewis and said, "Hey, we found our guy." And Lewis lives out in LA, and we're both in Michigan. So it's kind of, at first it was kind of, it was cool, but roughly about now I would say a year and a half, about 2 years, but we wrote together for about a year. So the band's been together for really about a year.
So did the band have a name when they found you already, or did the name come out? Okay.
Yeah, the name come after. That was it was kind of a project thing to see if we would all vibe. I think kind of, the drummer and myself and no, we didn't have a band. I didn't have a name. We wrote a bunch of stuff, and the name was kind of the least of our worries. You know what I mean?
I got to say that the name kind of stands out to me. I dig the name. Is there any special meaning, or it's just a cool sounding name?
Well, there's a little meaning. I mean, it does sound pretty cool. I thought when they threw it at me, it was kind of, I hadn't heard it. They had already talked about it, and they threw it to me, and I was like, man, that is a cool name, and we got to talking, and it's just it's kind of it's the whole concept of Horizon Theory is kind of cool. You know what I mean? If you think about it, you can take it a couple different ways. You know what I mean? So, and we thought that was cool. The future.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many kind of different things, and we wanted a name that kind of stuck out.
It definitely stands out, and I love the fact that it's so simple and yet it gets people talking. Kind of immediately, I thought, right. Horizon Theory. What is that? That just sounds kind of it does stand out. So there's that, and then let's talk about Astronomer, because again, to be honest, it's the only thing I've heard so far by the band. But you know what? I will tell you this, Josh. I believe the track is so good that it left me like, can't wait to hear what's next. Can't wait to hear the rest of the album. So I hear this is off the forthcoming album, Radio Silence. Do you guys have an official release date for that, or is it in progress?
It's sort of in progress. So the plan is we're gonna keep releasing singles. So we have Past Life, we have a song December that we put out, and Astronomer. And so the plan is to just keep putting out singles every 6 weeks or so.
Couple videos, not, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right, and just kind of go that route, and get the touchy feelies out there. You know what I mean? And get our name out there, and then kind of put it. I think the plan is to put a few singles out, and then kind of put them all together, and then put them on an album with unreleased songs.
So is this the first single, or have you released other songs before this?
We released, I believe our first single was Past Life.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
So yeah, check that out. Check out Past Life. If you like Astronomer, check out Past Life. And then our second single was December. Cool. So we have Past Life, December, and Astronomer out right now. And December probably means the most to me personally.
Okay.
I got sick back in March. A bunch of stuff went on. The band went on tour. Well, we were supposed to go on tour with Smile, Empty Soul, and Tantric, and I got sick. Kidney issues.
Oh, wow.
3 or 4 days or so before the tour, and I was down. I was pretty much bedridden for a month, and we decided the guys would go ahead and go on tour, and they put my vocals on a click track, and they decided this. And they got with me on it, and they're like, "Hey, man, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna try to raise you some money for your medical bills, and hope for the best, and in hopes that I'd be able to get some, fly down or whatever, and get maybe half the tour or something." But it didn't work out that way. But but in the end, it's been great. I mean, it ended up working out in the end. You know what I mean? I missed
Yeah.
the tour. I missed my first big tour, and but it all worked out. You know.
Let me ask you, if you don't mind me asking, is it an ongoing illness you have to deal with, or have you recovered fully?
So they called it minimal change disease. It's a kidney disease. It's what I've been reading anyway, which Google, they say that all the doctors are going to tell you Google's your worst enemy,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So me being me, I Google everything. But 90% remission rate, it never comes back, and I'm in 100% remission, and I've always been healthy to take care of myself.
Which
It
is why it
was,
must have been a big shock, right? I mean, I'm
you
probably
know, it's
initially like, what the hell is this, you know?
Oh man, it's like when you go on a big trip or there's something you've been anticipating and you just can't wait to do.
Uh,
But in the back of your mind, you're like, shit, what's gonna happen? You
yeah.
know what I mean? Something's gonna happen. I'm not gonna be able to go to this thing that I've been wanting to go to all year, Or you're on the road and you're just waiting for a tire to go down. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of what it was. It was just like up until the tour, it was just like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then boom, and it was completely out of the blue. It was a big punch in the face,
Sure, sure.
and but I tell you what, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, mentally.
Yeah.
You know, it broke me down, pretty bad. I mean, I was devastated. I was heartbroken.
Sure.
Missing my first big tour, with this project that we're trying to go the distance with this,
Sure.
and so it was heartbreaking,
And as
but
funny
it
as
was
it may
probably the
sound to say, maybe it's one of those things where, you don't expect to get sick like that, a young guy like you, and yet it makes you kind of, when it happens, you appreciate life that much more, not just that you
that's
came out the other side, but, this didn't take
100%.
me, it didn't take me, I'm still here. I survived it. I'm a fighter.
Right, 100%. That's 100% what it did, man. It opened my eyes. I have a 15-year-old son,
Oh,
and we're close, and something like that happens, and you don't even care about the music. You don't
sure.
care about anything, or really even anyone other than your
Just your
family
family, your
and
son.
what's going on. Right. So that definitely opened my eyes. I mean, it's like almost like a new life. So I definitely view things a little differently nowadays.
And
I'm happy with it.
not even really knowing you, Josh, just kind of talking to you for the first time. I'm willing to bet, hearing a story like that, that your son and you are probably even that much more closer because of this
Yeah. Oh
experience.
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't see him through the whole thing. And we actually live a couple of hours apart.
Sure, sure. Yeah,
But
of
and I see him quite a bit. But while I was sick, obviously,
course. Yeah,
I didn't
you're
see him at
down.
all.
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
getting
So,
better.
oh, and it was devastating because we didn't know what it was. We didn't, we just didn't know what it was. I mean, I gained 45 pounds in what they call water retention in just a couple days.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I weigh about a buck 70, buck
Yeah, yeah.
75, and I was well over 200 pounds for
Oh,
a minute. And
wow.
it was scary. I mean, it was super scary. So it opened my eyes, and I feel like a much better person now.
Yeah, and you
Um,
look healthier again. So let me ask you, a guy that's been like thin all your life, I mean, forget about, the weight, but you must also get to live through that experience of seeing maybe people look at you different because you had that weight on and did
yeah,
you,
well, I didn't really, I wasn't really able to leave the house. I was pretty much bedridden. So it's not other than going to the hospital or, blood tests hell, I did probably 3 blood tests a week for a month. It seemed like almost.
and I'm glad to
Um,
hear you're doing so much better, my friend. And getting back to
Thank
the band, what I think is amazing is album's not even out. You got 3 singles you released so far. And yet I was reading Astronomer, I think it was like number 3 in Canada on the iTunes charts,
on iTunes, yeah.
number 85 in the United States. I mean, does Canada know something that America does? I don't know, but
Right,
that's
right, yeah. It's so hard. I think it's so hard to chart in the US,
yeah,
So a couple weeks ago we were up in like number 5 on iTunes in the UK.
yeah.
And they say, it always happens in the UK
But I'm
first,
still
you
I'm
know.
still pretty impressed with the U.S. numbers. I'll tell you why. Because
Right.
tonight even have an album, be a new up and coming band that not a lot of people have heard of. That's pretty because a lot of established bands can't even get number 85 on the charts that have full length
Right.
albums. So yeah, And you know,
Right.
Def
Yeah. No,
Leppard,
yeah, super humbling, man. Really, I mean, it's
those are your people, your fans are talking, right?
right, right. You just don't, and this is like all new to me, you know what I mean, as far as like numbers like that and stuff, so, it's, it hasn't, I don't want to say like it hasn't hit me because nothing like huge has happened, but it's pretty big, I guess, right?
Gotta be humbling. I
Um,
mean, even when you consider a band like Def Leppard, their latest studio album that came out a few years ago, it's a
right,
number one album. It was number one for 1 week, but then after that, people stopped talking about it. People forgot that it was number one.
right, quick, right, quick, yeah, and and we're hoping to, and that, that's part of our, that's part of why we don't just want to put an album out. We want to
Well,
try to
Bill,
keep,
yeah,
like, we just want to try to build this thing. You know
machine,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Right. We want to build this machine, and we want to bring everybody with us. And like I said, I think the plan is to throw these singles out, and then
makes
and
sense.
have some on an album that they haven't heard, and then throw it all together and just like, here you go type thing.
Yeah, you know, the
Um,
old school way they did it, you know, when I was growing up, bands would go in the actual studio, they'd all be in the same room together,
right,
and
right,
they'd write albums that were the songs had kind of there was a theme to the album, or songs had to kind of all sounded like they fit on the same album. That's not as important of a thing, and as a writer, it must be a little more freeing to be able to kind of like, I feel like writing a ballad, I feel like writing a little
yeah.
heavier of a song. You can kind of do whatever your mood is for the day, you know.
Right, right, yeah, and that's kind of that's kind of how it works too. It's well, and it's the same with our guitar player when he's writing guitar riffs. It's just whatever kind of mood we're in, whatever kind of comes out, and I've been fortunate to where when I'm writing a lot of these the melodies to these songs, or the lyrics, um, it with we just mesh really well.
For sure.
Like it's I've been in bands over the last 10 years or so, cover bands, even original bands, and the hardest thing about it is finding those right guys to mesh. You can be in bands and you can have a lot of fun, but when it comes to putting your all into writing original music, it's hard to find those right people.
For
And
sure.
we all feel like we found each other. So
Uh-huh.
when we're writing, man, the stuff just comes out,
Wow.
however we're feeling. And one of us might be feeling this way and the other might feel this way. And, he might put this out and I might put this on it.
Yeah.
And it just works, and it's like the best feeling in the world,
So,
really,
so when you guys do like start writing, is everybody involved, or being that you're a singer, do you write most of the stuff?
Uh, as far as the music, our guitar player Chris writes a lot of the main riffs, the main stuff like that. So far, it's been we've had some demo riffs laid down, and just kind of, hey, let's see what we can do vocally on this. I have books of lyrics,
Yeah, very well.
of stuff I've written over the years,
For sure.
and it's funny because when I hear something that I really like, I never put any of those lyrics on it. It's always what just comes out naturally,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's always what's been I've written personally. I feel like I've written my best music with what comes out naturally versus what I have written
Oh,
down.
yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And
So,
how many of your songs are based on your own life experiences?
all of them.
Yeah, it's
I'd
nice.
say I'd say that all of them so far, the three of them so far. Some of the stuff I have written that's not been released, like in my books and that. I'll just write about random stuff. I have stuff that Ronnie James Dio would sing about, Dungeons and Dragons and stuff
Yeah,
like that. You know what I mean? I have shit like that. But most of what I write is life experiences.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but as a Sabbath fan, that's what else kind of tripped me out. That if you go back to those classic Ozzy era Sabbath albums, Geezer Butler, the bass player, he wrote most of the lyrics, not Ozzy.
Right,
And
right. Nobody knows that. Hardly
yeah,
anybody knows that.
and he was saying, you know, that's why when Ronnie joined the band, he said, and he wrote the kind of lyrics he wrote, there was no need for me to do it anymore.
Right, right, right. Right. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. I'm a big Black Sabbath fan. I was in the car seat listening to Ozzy when I was a baby. It's all I can remember
And
in
I
my
love
life.
Ozzy, don't get me wrong, but like it's too amazing. Even if you look at his solo stuff, the guys in the bands, like I heard that it was actually Randy Rosa actually taught Ozzy to really how to write a song, you know. I guess he didn't do
Right,
it the typical way. And if you look at all the guitar players and even like Randy Castillo, the drummer, they were all great songwriters. The guys in his
right,
band. Yeah.
right. You know, and we do have that in Horizon Theory. It's just happened these few songs that we've released. It's just mostly, for the most part, been Chris and myself as far as the writing process of the melody of the vocals. You
Yeah,
know what I
that
mean?
makes sense. I mean, and when you guys do get in a room together and write, like, do any of his guitar riffs ever like kind of spark a vocal or idea or something?
Always,
Yeah.
always. I tell you what, I knew who he was.
Uh,
Him and the bass player were in another band that did some touring over the years. And so I knew who he was, and he was local to me,
mhm.
about a half hour from where I'm at. So everything happened. The way it happened was just super cool. But oh, can you hear the bagpipes in the background?
Oh no, it's not even coming. Don't worry about it. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay, all right, all right.
yeah.
There's a whole parade. I'm in a camper right now, and there's a huge
Wow,
parade behind me going on right now.
that's amazing because
Fire,
I honestly
fire
can't hear
music.
it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good. I'm in this small town in northern Michigan, and I've been worried about, am I going to have service to be able to do this on my phone?
So far, it's been pretty good. You went out like
Cool.
one time, but you kind of froze, but I was still able to hear you, so it's working. And
Right on, right on. Cool.
that's the fun thing about doing these Zoom interviews. I just started recently doing these this year, and it's funny because each one you do kind of has a personality of its own. Depending on where the
Right,
person,
right. You
how many
know,
of the band members take part in it. It's fun.
right. I got a fishing boat. I do a lot of fishing, and I almost took my boat out this evening. I'm like, oh, could I do it on the boat? Would I have service? Is that professional? Is it cool?
I
You know
guess
what I mean? Like, what is
some
it? So,
people do it. I mean, I don't want to tell you to do, but that's the truth. You're not going to really know until you try.
yeah, right, right, right. No,
Yeah.
I'm actually in a buddy's camper right now.
Oh, cool. And now, yeah, talking about, I heard you're from Mount Pleasant,
Yep.
Michigan. Is there much of a metal or even a rock scene there?
It's Mount Pleasant is it's not a big city, but it is a college town, Central Michigan University. But there is a pretty good scene. I mean, it's if you want to see live metal, we got there's a couple venues in Mount Pleasant. Really, there's one main venue in Mount Pleasant. It's not a huge place, but as far as the scene, as far as bands, there are bands around. A couple I listen to are DeFlora, Nagazi, or Deflorette. Nagazi is a local band. It's just sick local band. In fact, actually, our drummer is the drummer for Nagazi.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay. There you
right.
go.
He's in dual bands. I kind of do a dual band thing as well, with another band called Blackout. We're a local band.
Well, Josh,
We
just want
started.
to say, let's keep in touch. If you ever want to come back and talk about that, feel free to.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Check out it. Look us up. I mean, we're not big. We're a local band. We start out as a cover band and kind of moved on to doing a local casino in Mount Pleasant, Soaring Eagle, and started doing originals and yeah. So that's just another project I'm in. It's super cool.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Jeff
Yeah.
Jeff is in another band and he's super cool, and we all kind of mesh, and it's worked out really
That's
well
the way
so far.
everybody does it. A lot of people, even the so-called professionals that get paid the
Right.
big bucks are more than one band. Yeah.
Right. They're all, yeah, I'm a big Alter Bridge fan. I'm a big Mark Tremonti fan.
Yeah.
And, and they kind of have their thing. And I just love that. And I love that they're professional about it and they write great
Yeah.
music.
Yeah, like I recently interviewed Brian Tishy, the drummer that's in the Dead Daisies, and he also was telling me he plays with Don Felder from time to time.
Oh, wow. Really? Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah. I think nowadays, I think that's a big thing. I don't want to say it's keeping your options open, but it's more, for me, it's, Blackout is like a kind of this side of me, and Horizon Theory is kind of this side
Yeah,
of
it
me.
makes sense. Why? I mean, again, if you have three different bands, it's probably because they sound so drastically different. Because if you were
Right,
going to create music which sounded exactly like Horizon Theory, why have other two bands?
right, yeah, right. And and in the end, I'm a singer, and I just love to sing, man. I love to perform. I have for years.
It must make you a better vocalist, singing different types of metal
And
music.
Blackout, yeah, it has. It has. Blackout has my screaming has gotten better.
Yeah.
I would never thought I could scream. I never tried to scream,
Yeah.
because I'm a singer. You know, I grew up in the '80s hair. You know, my dad was in bands, so Tesla's my favorite band of all time.
Oh, Tesla,
Um,
I'm there. What I loved about Tesla is you can't really pigeonhole them. They do metal, they're hard rock. I mean, some of their
right.
last couple stuff is like a lot closer to metal, but they got that kind of
Yeah, it is a little heavier.
80s
And I
rock.
tell you what, yeah, one of the loudest concerts I ever went to was a Tesla show, and I would have never thought that, you know, and it was amazing. And I've seen them 5 or 6 times, you know. But I listen to so much music and I sing everything. I mean, we were listening to Boys to Men earlier, and you know, my
Yeah,
buddies give me crap for it, you know, but I'm a singer in the end, you know, and I
yeah,
just
yeah.
love good music. I mean, I love if it makes me feel, then I like it, you know.
Again, similar to what we were talking about earlier. James Lomenzo, the bass player for Megadeth, he's also one time was playing with John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater, and
Wow, no way.
people were telling, hey, why would you play with John Fogerty? You're a metal guy. And he's like, you know what? It's a great gig. Why not? If you can do it, if you can get it
Right,
right.
right, right, right. 100%, 100%. That's how I am. You know, I was never really a huge Slipknot fan,
Yeah,
growing up, but over the, you know, as I get older,
sure.
I appreciate music differently than I did when I was a kid. You know, when you're younger, when you're in your teens in high school, you're kind of a hater on what you don't listen to. You know, I've
It's
noticed
funny.
that.
I like all my life been a huge fan of bands like Kiss, Whitesnake, Motley Crue,
Right.
bands
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of put on a show. And I never like you. I've never been a huge Slipknot fan, but at the same time, like I have an appreciation for what they do for the show they put
Right.
on. I mean,
Right.
even just looking at photos, like when they're on a cover of a magazine. I mean, even you don't even have to be a fan. Just like, wow, that's not like every other band. That's they do have
There's
something.
something there.
There's something about that band. I
There's
mean, I'm
something
not even
there.
a fan,
Right.
and I'm looking at it.
Right. Yeah, I was never really a huge Corey Taylor fan, but I appreciate that he can do whatever he wants. He'll, you know, you hear him on a or even like you know, Post Malone. We've all heard of Post Malone.
Sure.
I love that these guys can just go do what they want and it sound good and people can accept it because they're real. They're being true to themselves and they're being true to their fans, and that's all we want in Horizon Theory. You know, that's all I want out of life. You know, is
Yeah,
you know,
it's
stay
interesting.
humble, be real.
Interesting you bring
You
up
know,
Corey Taylor because what I would have loved to see that never actually happened is there was talk that when they kicked Scott Weiland out of Velvet Revolver, they were considering having him join the band, and I think that would have been an interesting fit.
that would have been weird. That would have been crazy. Yeah, but I could totally see that. Yeah,
And
I'm
I
sure.
think,
You know, I'm sure a lot of guys would go after Corey Taylor like that. You know.
yeah, I mean, I think they made the right decision to kind of call it a day, only because he could have probably fit the band and done his thing, but I think when you have a guy like Scott Weiland that dies and stuff, that's hard to kind of
It's
fill in those
right,
shoes. Yeah.
right, right. Right, you know, I agree with that. I thought the Velvet Revolver thing was super cool, man. Yeah, but you know, after he died, I think you're right. Yeah, to even take on anyone after him would have
I
been
mean, what a disappointment. I mean, that was a band that had so much potential, but kind of like many Guns N' Roses, they imploded really before we got a chance to be much of anything.
yep, yep. And they were there. They had everything. They had everything
Yeah.
going for them, you know. But they, you know, at
It
the
was
same
interesting
time,
because
they, you
the
know,
one guitar player, Dave, whatever his name was, Dave Kirshner, he was like kind of the one unknown guy in the band.
right, yeah, right. He was the only right, yeah, yeah. I
Right.
couldn't have told you his name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so let me ask you, you mentioned Ozzy. As far as singers, who are the guys that you grew up on?
Ozzy was probably my number one as a kid all the way through. I mean, and always will be. Um, Probably shed a tear or two the day he dies. You know what I mean? He's got
Kind of sad, but I think, he was going to do one more gig and
right.
unable to. That's why Judas Priest is doing it. But kind of when I see pictures of him, it's kind of sad. And it's kind of sad
It's
because,
super sad.
realize he's as old as he is. But the Parkinson's, I mean, even the drummer from Mr. Big, he died from that a few years ago. It seems
Right.
to take people pretty fast.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It does, man. It does, unfortunately. But you mentioned Mr. Big, and that's one of that's got a special place for me. You know, my dad was in bands when I was a kid. You know, VFW halls, local bars, back when you could bring your kids into the bars. You know what I mean? In the early '90s and that, and so I was in kind of that scene, nothing real big, but local scenes. And so the Mr. Big, the Motley Crues, the Ozzy was the big one, Tesla.
Yeah,
I'm a big Skid Row fan. Love singing anything Sebastian Bach.
yeah.
Bon Jovi's right there. All your mainstream hair metal for sure.
Speaking of Tesla, have you checked out their latest live album?
Oh,
From
I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Oh yeah, yeah.
So It's Too Bad. They do a great cover of Aerosmith.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, there's nothing they do that I probably won't really ever
In
like.
fact, the live album, what I love about it is it really doesn't have any of the so-called hits. It's just kind of the harder. Um,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Right. They go hard. They go hard, man. They can do the love songs and they can go hard, and that's what I admire about them. And I love it all. I mean,
yeah.
you can't put a Tesla song on that I don't like, really.
I had the chance years ago to interview the original guitar player Tommy Skeoch, and he was telling me in regards to the huge hit they had with Signs. Of course, that was a cover, and he was telling me that the funny thing is Tesla had a bigger hit with it than the original artist.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's fine. And that's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, we're
Because
actually
the
we're
funny thing
actually
about it,
recording.
funny thing about it is like very much like Van Halen did with "You Really Got Me." So many people out there truly think that's a Van Halen song. People think "Signs," that's a Tesla song, and I think that
Right.
really goes to their credit as a band to kind of just really own
Yeah.
that song. Yeah.
And it's funny because they're making the least amount of money on it. Most of those bands, and it's just super cool, right? Right. Yeah, you don't realize how many songs people do that aren't
Being
even
honest,
theirs.
how many of us heard of the five-man electrical band before that?
Right. Nobody until the Tesla album.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, I was a kid, so
yeah,
again,
yeah.
my parents explained that to me a little bit, but right, I mean, nobody and they probably a lot of them probably still don't even have a
They're
clue. They
probably
just know
thanking
that.
Tesla for that. Like, hey, we got a
Right.
little bit of love because of what they did to our song. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool, really.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about Astronomer before I let you go, because that's a great track. And I was really impressed by the videos, kind of got a little bit of a storyline, got great performance from the band. I understand it's about kind of a little bit of addiction and kind of emotions and
Yeah.
depression. Was that based on anybody in particular, like you or somebody in the band, or just somebody you knew?
Uh, Nobody really in particular, I guess, per se.
General statement on the state of the world.
Yeah. I mean, I have, friends and family. I mean, in the whole sense of, the depression,
Sure, sure.
I believe the videos
Yeah,
kind of gives you the sense of, maybe somebody left
yeah.
left him, and and he's
Again,
just his world.
loneliness. Yeah, I was reading kind
Right.
of.
Right. And that's pretty much kind of what the song's about. I mean, you just don't you just feel like you can't go on. Everything is after you. Like everything you do is there's something kicking you down, right when you think
I'm a
you're
guy that again, I'm a guy that grew up in the '70s and '80s era of music, so I'm a fan of a lot of the same stuff you are, and so I love bands like you that continue to put out like music videos to promote your music, and
right.
it looks very professional. Let's talk about the video. How long did it take for you guys to do that?
That we not long. So we got hooked up with these guys, Akiro Productions here in Michigan, and little smaller kind of company, some guys, just some guys, and we ended up becoming friends. We did a couple videos with them, and
A killer, killer,
the
killer video tape. Because let me tell you, it looks like
unbelievable.
something you'd see on Headbangers Ball back in the
Oh
day.
yeah, 100%, man. When we got the demos back, we were just beyond ourselves. We're like, this is real. Like we're a real band now. You know what I mean? Like, uh, so it's super cool. Yeah. It only took really about a day to shoot the video.
Yeah,
Now they did some of the B work, the B actor
yeah,
role
sure,
work,
sure.
on their own. But these guys are so quick and so good at what they do, and there's really only two or three of them.
Wow,
That we had a demo back within a day or two
wow,
of
wow.
what it was basically going to look like, and we're
Yeah,
just like, run it, run it. And so we
yeah.
stuck with it for like three videos. We have another video coming out. We did a festival over in Connecticut, Capulet Fest.
Okay.
It's been a few weeks now, about a month, with All That Remains and some other bands, and they were there. We brought the film crew with us, and they were there, and we filmed a live A live video. So we're gonna have a live video of the festival of our next single coming out. It's gonna be, we've seen the demo, and it's gonna be super cool.
Can't
I'm
wait to
super
check that
stoked
out.
about it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, there's no backdrops, there's no dark rooms, but
Yeah.
it's the same production crew, and it's gonna be super cool,
It must be a super cool like feeling when you release a single or a video like this, put up on YouTube, and you see people responding to it right away.
Oh, it's nuts, man. Yeah, it's nuts. It's super nuts because I've been doing the band thing for a few years. You push your own stuff on your social media.
Who's gonna do it
You know,
with you, right? Because
what,
even if you're signed with a label, they've got 10 other bands they're trying to push.
right, right. It's a business. It's a business, and and everybody's trying to sell the same thing.
Yeah.
Really. And so it's super rewarding to see the comments on YouTube, and we haven't had a negative comment. We haven't had a
Great, that's
thumbs
great.
down. We haven't. It's
And that's
been
great.
unreal.
Maybe one day you will, but right now it's all good. And I think it's also got to be a super cool feeling that, you know, find out and you realize you would go on YouTube, people leaving comments. You look where people are checking it out from around the world,
Right,
parts of the world maybe
right.
you've never even stepped in or you never even played a show.
Yeah, and right. And that's what's cool is you'll click on some of these subscribers and these profiles just to kind of get and I know all upcoming bands have done it. You
Sure,
can't tell me
everybody does it. Don't let them fool you.
yeah, right, right. And they're like, they're, and you're hoping to see that blue check mark on there and see that big name next to it. You know what I mean? Really is what you're hoping for. But you're clicking on his profiles and you're like, California, I'm in Michigan,
Yeah.
You're like, these guys are seeing this out. So it's the most rewarding thing ever, really. I mean, it's just super cool.
And when you see where people are checking out the music, how much does that play a role in, hey, maybe we should go do a show in California. Maybe we should go.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, you have every state like, come here, come here, come here. And, I've been on that end. I've been on that end for bands. You know what I mean? Like, I've been on that end. Like, you guys need to come here. And so it's like super, super cool. We're currently looking for, we're always currently looking for a tour.
Yeah.
We were hoping to find, a really cool fall tour, maybe a winter tour, something like that. We're trying to be picky about it.
Yeah.
These guys, the guitar player Chris and Lewis, our bass player, they've toured for a few years in a band, and so they've kind of seen it. It's not cheap touring.
Sure.
And
you mentioned that the show you did a couple of weeks ago where you shot the new video. I was curious, was that your first show since you got your clean bill of health?
Which video was that? I'm sorry.
No, you said you shot a new video a couple of weeks ago, your last show. I was just
yeah.
Is that the first show you played since you got better?
Yeah, it was. Yes. The Capulet Fest.
Ultimate comeback, right? It's like, okay.
It was nuts. Yeah, it was great. It rained on us the whole time we were there, and it was a 2-day festival, and it rained, and so it was like it was kind of a bum deal in the sense that rain sucks.
Crazy
But
as that is, so it's also got to be the ultimate feeling like, okay, they're not leaving, they're sticking around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was cool, man. It was well, the coolest thing was we traveled 4 states away. We're in Michigan, that was over in Connecticut. So my first show back was like, hey, we're hitting the road for a weekend, and it was cool, and it was VIP everything when you're on those things. So you're meeting these bands, and it was super good feeling. It was like, man, this is it, man. I knew what I missed on that tour. I know you can hear these sirens now.
I really can. I would tell you.
Can? Wow.
Yeah. You'll be amazed when you play
That's
this.
crazy.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. Anyways, it was great getting to know you, Josh. I want to say let's keep in touch, and I really
sounds good.
I love hearing this song and the sound of the band. I can't wait to hear about other stuff when it comes out. Definitely want to continue to promote this band. In fact, I have another show I do for the same site called This Is Metal with the co-host. I'm going to tell my co-host about you guys, and we're definitely going to have you on a future episode of that. So let's continue to keep in touch, and I promise we'll continue to promote the band because we believe in promoting great new bands like you guys.
Cool, man. We super appreciate that, man. Everything guys like you do, man. I mean,
well, if we didn't have guys like you putting out great music, we couldn't do it, right? So it's a team effort. And
I super appreciate that, man. It's but the way I see it is that the music industry, along with podcasts, radios, and we're we're a whole industry, man, and it's a whole networking thing, and like let's do this together.
I'll even add one more person, you know, publicist. If I didn't, your publicist hadn't reached out to me, I wouldn't know nothing about the band.
Right on. Well, I'm gonna have to thank her. Cool,
Yeah,
super cool.
But you take care and enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend that's just getting started. And this will be going up probably sometime next week. I'll be sure to let you know when it goes up. Feel free to share it. That's what we're all about here. Okay.
Sounds great, man. Definitely will, dude. I appreciate you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, brother.